Hey there, if you're a leader in long-term care, you're always looking for new, compliant ways to bring in revenue. It's just part of the game. Well, today we are zeroing in on a massive opportunity, remote patient monitoring, or RPM. We're going to break down exactly how it works and, the most important part, how your facility actually gets paid. Okay, let's just jump right in with the million-dollar question, right? How does your facility actually get paid for doing RPM? You hear all the buzz, you can see the potential, but how do you really get a slice of that revenue? Well, the answer is probably not what you think. But stick with me here, because getting this one thing right is the key to unlocking the entire model.
So, first things first, let's talk about the biggest myth in RPM revenue. A lot of folks think there's this direct line from your facility's bank account straight to Medicare for these services. We're about to see why that's just not how it works.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off right now. The myth? It's that your facility sends a bill to Medicare. The reality? It's completely indirect. The doctor is the one who bills Medicare. Then the doctor pays your facility a fee for helping out. This one little shift in thinking is absolutely fundamental. Once you get this, everything else just clicks into place.
So, you might be asking, why is it a myth? Well, it's because Medicare is super specific about who can send them to bill for RPM. As you can see, the list is pretty short. It's physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. What you don't see on that list, skilled nursing facilities or assisted living communities. Simple as that.
So here's the big mindset shift. Your role is not to be the billing entity. Your job is to become the absolutely indispensable, on-the-ground operational partner for the doctor who can bill. You're the one who makes the whole program actually work day to day.
Okay, so myth busted. Now let's get to the good stuff, the real model, and how you actually get paid. It all comes down to a really specific, really important type of financial agreement. You're going to want to write this down, circle it, highlight it. The most important term you need to know is Fair Market Value Fee, or FMV. This is a contracted, fixed fee that the doctor pays you. And listen, here's the most critical part. It is based on your actual costs, your staff's time, your tech. It is not a percentage of whatever Medicare pays the doctor. That isn't just a small detail, that's the absolute key to staying compliant.
And this lays out the flow of money perfectly. Step 1, the doctor bills Medicare. Step 2, Medicare pays the doctor, usually somewhere in the ballpark of $110 to $150 per patient per month. And then step 3, the doctor turns around and pays your facility that fixed, pre-agreed FMV fee. See? It's clean, it's predictable, and most importantly, it's a compliant way to get paid.
Okay, so that leads us right to the next big question, doesn't it? How in the world do you calculate that fee? How do you take your operational costs and turn them into a compliant, defensible price you can charge? Let's break it down.
First up, you have to figure out your staff costs per resident, and you've got to be honest about the actual time it takes. So in this example, maybe a CNA spends about 10 minutes a month, an LPN spends 15, and an RN spends 5. You multiply that time by their loaded hourly rate, and that means wages plus benefits. And you can see the math here. It adds up to about $21 in total staff costs.
So let's lock that number in, $21. That's your staff cost per resident per month. Think of this as the foundation of your fee. It represents the real human effort your team is putting into this.
Okay, next, we have to add in the technology and the administrative costs. This is kind of the engine of the program, right? The software, the devices, the general overhead to keep the lights on. In our example, we're saying that adds another $17.
And there you have it. You take your $21 in staff costs, you add your $17 in tech costs, and you land on your final number, about $38. That is your justifiable, defensible, and totally compliant fair market value fee per patient per month. This is a number that goes right into the contract with the doctor.
All right, now we get to the fun part. You've calculated your fee, you've got your price. Now the game is all about making this program as efficient and as profitable as possible. And it's all about pulling the right levers.
Oh, this one is just huge. Seriously, look at the difference here. You absolutely cannot have your $62 an hour RN doing routine work that your $32 an hour CNA can handle just fine. If you want to be profitable, you have to delegate those routine tasks down and save that expensive RN time for real clinical oversight. This is probably the single biggest driver of your profit margin.
And here are a few more quick hitters to boost that bottom line. First, scale. More residents in the program just makes the economics work better. Second, standardize your workflows. That makes your staff time predictable. Third, automate everything you possibly can. Let the technology do the heavy lifting. And hey, you can even get creative and offer different service tiers, each with its own compliant FMV fee, of course.
All right, let's talk about staying safe. Because, let's be honest, none of this matters if you're not playing by the rules. But I want you to think of these rules not as a burden, but as the guardrails that are there to protect your program and keep it on the road to success.
So, for the doctor to even get paid by Medicare in the first place, these boxes have to be checked every single month, and your work is what makes it happen. The patient has to transmit data on at least 16 separate days. You've got to log at least 20 minutes of clinical staff time. There has to be at least one live, two-way chat. And of course, the documentation has to be perfect and ready for an audit at any time.
Finally, let's talk about the biggest don't of all. I'm going to say this again because it is that important. You can have no revenue splits, no percentage of collections. Your fee has to be that fixed, predetermined fair market value amount that we calculated. Period. End of story. This is the #1 compliance mistake you have to avoid.
So when you boil it all down, the whole thing comes down to this really simple formula. You win by maximizing the number of residents in your program, minimizing the number of minutes your staff spends on each one, and all while staying strictly compliant. That's the game, right there.
So now you have the model. The only real question left is, how are you going to tune your facility's FMV? We've walked through the whole playbook, the model, the math, the guardrails. Now it's your turn to take this and build a profitable, compliant RPM program that really works for you.